Sup? Got some more combat mission Shock Force 2 today. We're going to be continuing the Marines campaign with the second mission here. I meant to get this video out sooner, but I'm sure y'all know how shit goes sometimes. As always, like and subscribe my shit. Makes me happy. And let's get into it. So what's the mission? Well, we're back in the same spot as last time. The not-so-sleepy coastal town of Hamidiyah. Weather is hazy, but clear, with no impact to ground or air operations. It is currently 0510 on the 21st of June, 2008. Battalion Landing Team 26 is going to conduct an amphibious assault across BLZ White 2 in order to extend the force beachhead line to permit armor and heavy equipment to be brought ashore. Additionally, MSR Corvette is to be secured in order to permit the main effort to continue its attack further inland to the west. The Syrians have been reacting in an uncoordinated manner. Much of their strategic intelligence and communications infrastructure has at this point been destroyed, and they are now attempting an uncoordinated defense that is being conducted mostly by local commanders based upon their skill and varying levels of commitment. Overall, they're having a rough time trying to react to the superior American firepower and high operational tempo. Syrian reserve units have established blocking and ambush positions in the vicinity of Hamidiyah and BLZ White 2. They are functioning as the outer layer of the Syrian defensive plan. So let's take a look at our force composition for this operation. The reconnaissance platoon is still in the field from the last mission. Golf Company, comprised of 2 platoons loaded in AAVs, is set to hit the beach and is the primary attack force. They have had machine gun sections and anti-tank teams attached to them. They are supplemented by a sniper platoon and the forward observations group. Fox Company is set to arrive in 10 minutes by helicopter insertion. They will be delivered in 2 loads, a forward element comprised of the majority of 2nd Platoon, and a rear element, which is comprised of the rest of 2nd Platoon and the command team. And at about an hour into the operation, the Lieutenant Colonel will arrive, who has overall command of BLT-26. The USS Mason and a shadow drone are currently on station for tasking. And in 5 minutes, 2 sections of 81mm mortars, as well as a section of 60mm mortars, should become available. And in 10 minutes, an AH-1 Whiskey Cobra should also arrive on station. In 20 minutes, the USS Sampson should arrive. And to wrap it all up, a flight of 2 F-18 Delta should arrive in 25 minutes. We packing a lot of ass here, boys. So what's my initial plan? We got a lot of moving parts here. Left over from the previous mission, we have the 3 squads from the reconnaissance platoon. They are currently set up in these positions. Golf Company will be hitting the beach and rolling right through town. The company will be divided into 2 primary elements, consisting of 1st and 2nd Platoon. The commander and the fire element are located in the middle of the formation. The sniper platoon is co-located with Golf Company and is also mounted within the AAVs. While remaining mounted, Golf Company will quickly move through the town up to Phase Line Alpha and occupy support by fire positions in these 2 locations. 2nd Platoon will be the primary support by fire for the beginning stages of the operation. They will cover the advance of 1st Platoon, who, after I am comfortable, will collapse their support by fire and remount the AAVs before pushing into Objective 2. 2nd Platoon will then also cover Fox Company, who will move to enter and clear the trench line in this location after its aerial insertion, which should be at around the 10-minute mark. For initial fires, I have the USS Mason. It will be hitting the Syrian rear around Objective Bravo, before being shifted to wherever I feel artillery is needed after that. The shadow drone will be observing along this axis, which will allow me to call for and adjust indirect fires and aerial assets to wherever is needed, regardless of line of sight. There are a lot of variables here, and a lot of moving parts. Let's see how this shit goes. The Golf Company Marines hit the beach and they begin rolling up through the town and towards Phase Line Alpha in the AAVs. They are welcomed by copious amounts of Syrian indirect fire. All along the line and within the town, Syrian artillery mortar rounds rain down from above. The USS Mason returns the favor, hitting the rear of the Syrian positions with its 155mm rounds. First platoon arrives at its designated support by fire position and begin dismounting the Marines, who quickly rush to occupy firing positions within the buildings along the edge of town, as the AAVs immediately begin working over the Syrian positions with Mark 19 and 50 cal. My goal here is to attempt to put out such a volume of fire that the Syrians don't get a shot at Golf Company while they're in the process of setting up. The first platoon Marines are able to occupy their positions, and they begin setting up machine guns, pouring small arms fire and small rounds into the Syrian positions. Second platoon is forced to stop short of its intended position as a result of the intense Syrian barrage, but they still have sight lines, and they begin to join in with first platoon in hammering the Syrian positions and suspected positions. Even with the threat of ATGM and RPG, I believe that the second platoon Marines are safer held up inside of the AAVs instead of attempting to dismount at this point. The artillery fire is pretty intense, and I have no doubt that the Marines will be injured or killed by the shelling if they attempt to dismount right now. In OP-101, the 3rd Scout Squad continues to get pounded by indirect. Every Marine in the squad takes shrapnel, and one becomes mortally wounded. This is 2-6's first casualty of the invasion. But it doesn't stop there. They end up taking 3 more casualties. It's a fucking tragedy, but it do be like that sometimes. In war, sometimes it does not matter how much training you have, or how good your leaders are. Luck really does have a say in what happens. The 2nd Scout Squad spots an 82mm mortar crew in the trees on the northwest side of the map. The fire control officer from the inside of the AAV begins to direct fire towards that position through the use of the UAV, which has its eyes on the area. This could very well be the mortar crew that has killed the Marines on OP-101, and I intend to get payback. It's blood for blood around these parts. On OP-101, the indirect fire has stopped, and the squad leader and team leader, the only ones in the squad who are able, despite their injuries, begin assessing and providing aid to their casualties. Golf Company's commander, while still inside of his AAV, relocates to a building between 1st and 2nd platoon. He dismounts along with the fire section and begins assessing the situation. The indirect fire on 2nd platoon's position has died down, and so they begin moving AAVs to buildings where they can dismount Marines and begin establishing their support by fire position. The commander's AAV spots a truck over by Objective Bravo and engages with 50 caliber, resulting in a kill and the truck going up in flames. Sniper platoon spots another Syrian mortar crew behind the building just north of Objective 3. They begin putting rounds on the crew, forcing them off of the tubes temporarily. Meanwhile, the USS Mason is finally able to begin dropping rounds on the first mortar crew that was spotted within the trees on the northwest side of the map. One of the Syrians panics and attempts to relocate what I assume to be an ammo truck, but it gets stuck and engaged by one of the 2nd Platoon's AAVs. .50 caliber rounds rip through the truck, causing the driver to freak out and bail before being killed by the naval artillery. At this point, Golf Company is set up on phase line Alpha. On OP-101, the 3rd Squad of the Recon Platoon has taken 4 casualties from the Syrian mortar fire, with only the squad leader and a team leader left walking. The USS Mason's fires have been shifted from Objective Bravo to hit the Syrian mortar position in the tree line here. Those fires will soon be shifted to hit the Syrian trench line in this location, in preparation for Fox Company's helicopter insert. After degrading the Syrian trench line, the fires will either be shifted to another location or lifted, after which Fox Company will move to take the trench line. Fire Control Officer begins to shift the USS Mason's guns towards the trench line. While doing so, Syrian spotting round is observed, indicating that there is another Syrian barrage incoming. Another Syrian spotting round lands close to OP-104. So, I decide to move the Marines within OP-104 down a level, so they may be more protected from the incoming barrage. The USS Mason starts landing rounds on the Syrian trench line over by Fox Company's insert. And at 0524, the lead element of Fox Company arrives. I have them spread out and hide, as to avoid the artillery coming down on the Syrian trench line close to their position. Cobra attack helicopter, Gunner 5-0, arrives on station. I have him search for targets around the center of the field, just short of Objective 3. Over on 1st Platoon's position, an RPG takes a shot at one of the AAVs from Objective 2 and falls short. The Marines spot the Syrian and immediately return the fire. I have the AAVs pour more Mark 19 into the building where it came from. I begin to notice spotting rounds are getting walked in on 1st Platoon's position, so I decide to move them down off of the rooftops. But then shortly after, I decide that it's time for 1st Platoon to remount the AAVs and get ready to push Objective 2. I don't want to risk them having to endure the incoming Syrian barrage, and I expect them to be safer within the vehicles. The mortar tubes around Objective 3, despite having received fire from the Marines, are back on their tubes. These guns need to be silenced. And so, I have whatever Marines that can put eyes on them, put rounds on them, in order to maybe stop them from firing. Syrian mortars begin falling on the rooftops, where 1st Platoon Marines just were. Luckily, they've pretty much finished loading back up, and I decide to have the AAVs reverse out of the barrage zone. Just in time, too, because the motherfuckers start dropping it like it's hot. This could have been real bad if Marines were still on those rooftops. So now the Fox Company has arrived, I decide that now is the time to push. It will be a simultaneous assault by both Golf Company's 1st Platoon into Objective 2 and by Fox Company into the trench line on the north side of the map. 2nd Platoon will cover both from the primary support by fire position. I have shifted the USS Mason's fires from the trench line that Fox Company is set to assault onto where the Syrian mortars are going ham on my shit. The 81mm mortars and 60mm mortars have just arrived, and I intend to use them to provide cover of smoke for both Fox and Golf Company's 1st Platoon. Currently, the Cobra gunship search for targets around this area. After the smoke missions are completed, I will have the 60mm mortars hit the trench line, center of the map, and the 81mm mortars hit the area around Objective Bravo. After a few minutes, the USS Mason's guns begin to impact around the Fox who keep sending mortars towards the Marines. And not long after that, smoke rounds start to come in. Second platoon picks with the volume of its fire. At this point, they're really laying the Scunion down in preparation for the combined assault of Fox Company and Golf Company's 1st platoon. And so, the assaults commence. 1st platoon rows forward towards Objective 2. And Fox Company begins its assault towards the trench line. Violence is the name of the game here. Vast amounts of it. As Fox Company nears the trench line, 1st Platoon's Marines begin dismounting the AAVs and assaulting up to Objective 2. Violence, violence, violence. Some Syrians on Objective 2 are returning fire, but are quickly being put down by the Marines. Meanwhile, 2nd Platoon is doing its best to keep up the volume of fire. I, for one, would not want to fill out the expenditures report after this. By this point, the AAVs, which are co-located with 2nd Platoon, have expended nearly half of their Mark 19 ammo, and a good portion of their 50. The rear element, the Fox Company, has arrived, and I turned them into a secondary support by fire for the lead element, having them fire into the trench line and buildings next to the lead element. Fox Company nears the trench, and the first squad up to the trench meets the Syrians up close, before picking them off as they attempt to escape. Meanwhile, 1st Platoon on Objective 2 is beginning to push into the buildings. They are met by shocked Syrians, who attempt to surrender, and those who have taken the only other option, which is to run away. As 1st Platoon begins to take complete ownership of Objective 2, at the 81mm mortar sections begin to drop rounds just behind on Objective Bravo. Carnage continues, and more Syrians decide that it's time to escape. For many, surrendering would have been the better option. More RPGs are fired towards 1st Platoon's AAVs, which gets me a bit worried. So I have the AAVs specifically target where the RPGs are being fired from. Over in Fox Company's side, Marines are clearing through the trenches and finding out that being on the other side of American firepower produces. Here you can see that for Fox Company, I have the rear element acting as a support by fire for the lead element, who are clearing out the trenches. Seems to be working out well. The roles then flip, and the rear element begins to push for the second trench line, and the buildings directly adjacent to it. All the while, 2nd Platoon continues to provide suppressing fire, only lifting that fire once Fox Company Marines get too close and fratricide becomes likely. More spotting rounds begin to hit near the rear of 2nd Platoon. And not long after, another Syrian barrage hits around OP-104. The Cobra gunship begins engaging targets behind Objective 3, and the mortars and naval artillery continue to put in work. Over on Objective 2, Syrians are attempting to retreat, and something similar to a turkey shoot commences. While on Fox Company's end, the Marines begin wrapping up their assault. They enter the buildings and find surrendering Syrian troops. It is now 0539. 1st Platoon has taken complete control over Objective 2, and Fox Company has taken the trench network on the northern side of the map. A detachment from Fox Company will be moving to clear the tree line where Syrian mortars were spotted, and they will be setting up a supplementary support by fire position that will have visual of the entire Syrian rear. All three of these elements will serve as support by fire for 2nd Platoon, who is getting prepared to remount and assault into the center of the map in order to take the building here, and then clear through the trench line behind it. All the while, all fire support, such as artillery and aerial assets, are now being refocused towards this area in particular, as this is where most of the Syrian forces have now consolidated. Second Platoon begins to mount up in preparation for their assault, as the forward observers begin adjusting fires towards new enemy positions. The detachment from Fox Company sets off towards clearing the tree line. Second Platoon begins its assault, with 1st Platoon and Fox Company providing cover for the Marines as they push up in their AAVs. After getting close, they begin dismounting Marines, and the AAVs pop smoke to cover the Marines, who are pretty exposed out here in the open. The Syrians continue to fire RPGs at 1st Platoon's location, but luckily, under suppressive fire, they've all missed their targets. OP-104 gets hit with yet another Syrian barrage. The Marines stay low, and they don't take any casualties. Fox Company detachment reaches the tree line, and they begin clearing through it. He hates his job. Second Platoon Marines begin pushing up through the smoke. They find Syrian troops who have not yet surrendered, and they quickly put them down. Because I'm worried about RPGs, for now, I have 2nd Platoon's AAVs back up. The Marines find more Syrians hiding in the rubble of what used to be the rear of the building. A few are killed, and one attempts to surrender. At this point, 2nd Platoon has taken complete control of the building complex in the center of the map, and they prepare to begin pushing up through the trench line. as the flight of F-18s are heard overhead. Fox Company detachment reaches the edge of the tree line. They immediately spot Syrians and begin putting fire on them. There's still a lot of Syrian movement around Objective 3, and Fox Company begins picking them off. I push a squad up from 1st Platoon to clear the trench directly front of Objective 2. So far, everything's going pretty good. Some of the Marines are getting wounded by shrapnel, though, from friendly artillery fire. It's nothing major, but they are getting knocked around a bit. The F-18 gets its cleared hot, and it drops its 2,000-pound bomb on Objective 3, resulting in the collapse of the entire building, and hopefully the deaths of all the Syrians inside. With Objective 3 being blown to shit, I have the 2nd Platoon AAVs push back forward to support the Marines, who begin pushing forward to clear through the trench, and getting set up to clear through the rubble of Objective 3. It is now 0548, and we're on the home stretch. I can feel it. I'm going to have 1st Platoon begin clearing through to Objective Bravo, and 2nd Platoon will clear through the rubble of Objective 3. Fox Company will cover the advancement of both of these elements as they push up. All of my indirect fire has been told to cease, and the Cobra gunship is currently searching for targets around Objective Bravo. I'm still receiving indirect fire, so there's probably a spotter somewhere, which I suspect to be in the multi-story building over by Objective Bravo, marked here in purple. Things are pretty quiet, but then Fox Company starts spotting movement over on Objective Bravo. First Platoon begins its push towards Objective Bravo. And while doing so, they begin receiving indirect fire. Second Platoon has also started its push, and spotting rounds start landing to the rear of their location. They push up through the trench, and they begin spotting Syrians within the rubble of Objective 3. I don't know how these fucking dudes are still alive. They dropped a 2,000-pound bomb on the building, and the roof has collapsed down on them. Because of the indirect fire, I suspect there's a spotter up in this multi-story building, so I have the AAV start pouring a shit ton of Mark 19 into it. The rest of 2nd Platoon pushes up, and I begin really taking control of Objective 3. First Platoon continues its push up towards Objective Bravo, and anyone remaining from 1st Platoon on Objective 2 begin to remount the AAVs in order to push up with the rest of the platoon. One unlucky Syrian decides to make a break for it. This poor fuck gets cut down. Cobra gunship finds targets on objective Bravo, begins putting cannons on them, and the rest of 1st Platoon begins to push up. Suppressive fire is poured into the multi-story building as a squad is sent forward to clear it. But then I decide, fuck it, I'm just going to push the rest of the 1st Platoon's AAVs up there as well. Which wasn't necessarily a bad call because 1st Platoon's previous position, it starts receiving pretty heavy indirect fire. Sure enough, there were Syrians still in the building. One is shot, and 2 inside the building begin to surrender. As one of the squads from 1st Platoon is remounting to link up with the rest of the platoon, they get targeted by more Syrian artillery. Luckily, they don't take any casualties. From the top of the minaret building, the Marines spot Syrians laying in the field along the edge of objective Bravo. But other than that, it seems pretty clear. They find dead bodies and unmanned mortar tubes. At this point, pretty confident that it's over. No more Syrians are being spotted, and everything is quiet. Golf Company commander remounts his AAV and moves to secure Objective 2. That way I get the points for it at the end of the mission. I then call for a ceasefire and get a total victory. 2 Marines have been killed, 2 have been wounded. These were from the very beginning of the mission, where the scouts on OP-104 got smashed by Syrian mortars. Syrians haven't fared so well, with 108 men being killed and 43 being wounded, as well as 13 being taken prisoner by the Marines. I've secured all ground targets, but have somehow failed to inflict enough enemy casualties, which, honestly, I'm going to call bullshit on. I think things overall went pretty well. The Marines I lost really couldn't be helped. I couldn't choose where to deploy them. They were kind of doomed from the start. I guess I could have immediately pushed them off of OP-101, but I didn't think they would immediately get nuked by Syrian mortars. Oh well, these things happen. Blowing through a shit ton of ammo, so maybe I could have controlled the amount of ammunition that was being used a little better. But what's the fun in that? Many of the Marines received superficial wounds for being too close to friendly artillery, so probably next time I'll try to watch that a bit better. Either way, we'll be moving on to the 3rd mission after this. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. You guys have a good one, and later.